The champ is here.
We will definitely not shut up and dribble.
The champ is here. The champ is here.
I'm going to continue to stand with the people.
The champ is here.
I will not lose.
Yes, welcome. You could be anywhere in the world, but you are here with we. My name is EJ, and I got my man,
MH.
He is the DB of the show, and we are Black in Sports, giving a voice to the culture that won't shut up and dribble. Here, interviewing the best professionals in the game and in the boardroom, covering it all, laughing at it all, while providing a platform to be heard. All right, so you know what we do. Got to get right into it, okay? So we want to welcome our guest, two-time Super Bowl champion with the should I say my Pittsburgh Steelers? With the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Go ahead, say it with your chest.
Say it with your chest. Right? Hey, 10+ seasons in the NFL, Orlando, Florida born, okay? He's been protecting the blind sides, and he cut his chops, all right, becoming a Gator. And now this giant on the field is a giant off the field, climbing up the ladder, man. You can hear him everywhere, all right? As a game day analyst, please clap it up for Maximilian W. Starks the Fourth. Clap it up.
Wow, it was whole government out there and everything. Okay, glad we didn't give out the social security number on here.
Hey, man, appreciate you, man. We go back, man. So love seeing you when I get to see you, man. Bringing back those good old days of my time in Pittsburgh. But, man, how we start this show, because it's about you and it's about our audience, man. So how we start the shows, we like a shoot your shot moment, man. This could have been any time in your life, man. It could have been, high school, college, today, but just a moment in time where you shot your shot, man. You went for it all. It could have been a win, or it could have been a lesson, right? So please give our audience that shoot your shot moment.
All right. Well, I guess I have to look back. I think my big shoot your shot moment probably happened in college, right? I mean, because you don't understand like kind of where you're at. I was learning about the blessed. It was like my junior year, and I got in a great grade as far as coming out as a junior in the draft. And, I shot my shot to stay in school for one more year, and stay and try and honor a promise I made to my grandmother that I was going to get my degree before I left. And even though I went through that year and came up one class short, I still shot my shot. I ended up going in the third round to the Steelers, and it was the best blessing that could have happened because of everything that transpired. And I think had I have gone a year earlier, been that quote unquote possible first rounder, my life path wouldn't have led me to here. It would have led me to possibly meet you, EJ, you know what I'm saying? And being on this show tonight with MH. And so I think that was a shoot your shot moment where I had to make a decision, a grown decision, because back in those draft days, when you got slotted in the first round, you were getting a lot of money. And to kind of change that path and say, let me honor a promise I made, was kind of a big moment for me. I think, and a title shift in my mindset. And this is pre-NIL. Oh yeah. Official NIL. Yeah, exactly. This is official 2000. Yeah, post sanctions Florida, not pre-sanctioned Florida.
Max, where your love for sports start?
Man, my love started, as a kid, man. My mom wanted me out the house, and I loved running around. So, I started at a really young age. Like any kid, you start with soccer and little league baseball and basketball. And I tried out for a Pop Warner team, and everything was good until I got on the scale, and they said, "Nah, you too big to play." Back when they had weight limits before City League. Yeah, exactly. So they was like, "Yeah, you can't even play in our biggest division." So you know what I'm saying? So I played everything else. And I think that's what generated my love and why I'm always a big advocate for kids to play as many sports at a young age and figure out what you love, but also understand that it makes you use different parts of your body, your brain, muscle groups, and allows you to be more versatile. I feel like that really helps with ultimate athleticism.
So when was it that you got locked in with football? Was it middle school, high school? That was the time that it got converted there?
Freshman year of high school. So how it happened, I was at Jones High School, historical Black high school in Orlando, one of the oldest. And I was walking down the hallway. I went there, took a magnet program so I could go play basketball at Jones High School. I'm walking down the hallway. The head football coach, he little short dude, Will Carlton, rest his soul. walking down the hallway, looked like a bulldog, mean, walking in the middle of the hallway. And he walked past me and then he like stopped and he just looked up at me and was like, "Hey, you, what do you do here?" I was like, what do I do here? I was like, I'm a student. He said, what grade? I was like, freshman. And at that time, I was like 6'4", 245
God,
as a
let's
freshman.
go.
So he was like, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, "What do you mean? I'm in the magnet program. I'm going to class, coach." He's like, No. What sport are you playing?" I was like, "I play basketball, coach." "Why don't you play football?" I said, "I never played it. Never allowed to play it." I was like, "And the only way you're going to get me to play it is if you talk to my moms." Right?
Facts.
And so he was like, "All right, okay, after school, meet me over by blah, 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 blah." I couldn't even remember where he parked his green pickup truck. He had a green pickup truck with a bulldog on the hood ornament. And so he drives me to the house. He asked my mom, like, "Hey, I'm Coach Carlton. I'm the head football coach. I want your son to come try out for the team." She's like, "Nah, I can't let my baby get hurt. He's going there to play basketball. Nah, we're good. We're good." Jones, we talked to Wally J, who was a coach there, Wally Jones. Like, we talked to him. We had an agreement. He was going to play basketball, blah, 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 blah. He's like, "Please." She's like, "No." Next day happens. She's like, same thing. Drives me home. Asks my mom again. Mom says no. And it kept going on. It went on for like 4 days. She finally said, "All right, but don't let my baby get hurt." He's like, "Ma'am, it's football, but I'll try." And so I remember going out the first day and, coach knew what to do, right? Put me at tight end, threw me a couple passes, catch them. I'm like, okay. So I came home excited. "Hey, mom,
Right?
I'm really loving this. I'm going to be a tight end. Da, 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 da." And she's like, "Oh, word. Okay. Got me." So I get there and they put me on the freshman team because, like, you ain't never played football. I know you know the rules, blah, 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 but we need to make sure you get some reps. So I remember my first game was against West Orange High School. And it was a Thursday night game. Freshmen always played on Thursdays because you wasn't good enough to play on Fridays yet. And so played Thursday. They put me at defensive end because our quarterback was trash. I'm not even going to lie to you. He couldn't throw the ball. So they're like, "Man, let's just put you on defense. Play defensive end. All you need to know is go hit the guy with the football." I said, "All right, bet."
Got it.
Man, freshman. Now, mind you, freshman, 6'4", 245. Man, I was in the backfield all day. I had 11 tackles for loss and had no clue what I was doing. I was just tackling the dude with the ball. And so they were like, "All right, well, it was great having you. You'll report to Coach Carlton tomorrow." Tomorrow. Yeah, you going up to varsity and you played in the varsity game.
This is the wrong night.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
The boy good.
About that. Yeah. We're sorry. I had to go apologize to the coach because the kid's crying over there. So then I go to the varsity, and we had a bunch of guys who were actually really good. So the starting tight end, Victor Walters, Vic ended up going to, I want to say, he went to Howard or FAM as a tight end, and then we had Eric Powell who went to FSU. Chris Woods was another defensive lineman. So I was kind of behind all these dudes, Antonio Henry. And so I just remember, I was just riding the pine, I was just, a backup, a freshman behind all these juniors and seniors. And then finally I got my shot in the Oak Ridge game. And they had a running back named Willie Joseph. Dude was the baddest dude in the city. I mean, he was leading the state in rushing. He was a bad dude. So they're like, "Man, we about to get the doors blown off of us. So let's go ahead and put the freshman in, And so they're like, "All right, you need to go hit that running back." So I'll never forget. I was lined up as a right defensive end on the left side. They ran toss to the right, and I run up field. I'm like, oh, where'd he go? And then I just book it, and I go in, and I'm running this dude down from behind. Dude is fast on the track team, and he made a cut, and that was my shot to catch up. And then I just kept on a straight line, and he came right back in front of me. And I just remember leaping out, grabbing him over the top, and ripping him down backwards. Well, when I ripped him down backwards, I ended up tearing the tendon in my finger because I got it caught in the shoulder pads, the old school shoulder pads with the hook.
Yeah,
and I got the hook caught underneath. So I made the tackle, saved the touchdown, But I'm like, man, I'm shaking my hand. I'm like, it was a ball sitting in there from the tendon there. And I was like, oh man, my mom's gonna be pissed off. Oh man. So I came to the sidelines, and Dr. Tom Winters was like our team physician.
Yeah.
And so he looked at it, he's like, yeah, that's a torn tendon in the hand. And so I was like, dang it. I was like, the one time I get my chance to shine, I make a great moment, boom, I'm injured. So I the rest of the year, I'm sitting there, I'm going to the games on the sidelines, dressed in my sweats, but I can't dress in a uniform. And I got this claw hand. It's sitting there. Look like hey, you know, if you from Florida, you know what highlight is. So I'm over there looking like a highlight player with the crook hand and this cast. And so now the basketball coach is pissed because I can't play basketball with this hook, even though I'm left-handed. I can't do anything with this. What am I doing with this? I can't block nobody doing like that. So I just remember when it came basketball season, like I had to wait like the first half of the season. Then after January, after the Christmas tournament, then I was allowed to play. And so after that, I was like, man, I'm never playing football again, man. First time I get to play for real, I get injured. So, man, left, and then I actually switched schools. I ended up, my mom was like, okay, we're going to send you to a Christian school. You know, they had a good basketball team, let you go play there, you know, really try this. So I went to the Christian school for like 4 days. And I was like, man, they don't have basketball. I mean, they don't have football. They only got basketball. And even though they were semifinalists in the state a year ago, their center went on to play at UCF. They were like, man, we need a center. Man, if we got you, you're the missing piece. We're going to win state, you know, Uncle Rico style. So I was like, oh, yeah. But then I was like, man, but y'all don't got football. Like, nah, we ain't got football. We're a small, you know, 1A school. We don't have enough kids to field it. So I was like, Mom, man, I really want to play football again. And, you know, something in me was saying, man, I want to play football. So I take Friday off from school, and then I check back in because I was already assigned at Jones. So I go back to Jones on that Monday, like I just missed a week of school. And I just remember going, I missed the first day of tryouts, but Coach Carl was like, all right, back to normal. You know, you're with the varsity, and we're getting ready for the first game of the season after training camp and everything. And school calls and says, Max, you've been suspended. I was like, for what? I was like, I got a 3.7 GPA. Like, I'm taking honors and advanced classes. I'm like, what do you mean I'm ineligible? Like, I'm not allowed to play. I'm ineligible. So come to find out later, the athletic director at the other school had called and said that I switched schools illegally. And that since I missed the first day of tryouts, which was that Friday, because I took that day off from school, I shouldn't be eligible to play that season. So I had to actually appeal it. So I had to wait half the season. I had to wait 2 months before I could go before the Florida High School Athletic Association board to plead my case for an appeal. So we do it. They show up. They're like, oh, I don't know how this happened, Max, blah, 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 blah. I was like, yeah, okay.
You know, right.
Yeah. Okay.
Twisty lips on them, boy. Twisty lips.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, all right, bet. So I made my case, told them why. I had a good grievance about it because they didn't have a football program and I wanted to play football. So I was eligible to then play that following week after I got back from the hearing. Man, I went in that first game. We were playing Tavares, and I had 2 blocked field goals, 2 sacks. I was pissed, and I made all conference that year off of 5 games that year.
Jeez.
So I was a terror. So now I found out I'm really a defensive end, not a tight end, because of that. And so I remember after that, then I switched. Yeah, then I switched to a prep school, Lake Highland. They offered me a scholarship. They were a force, and then I ended up playing offensive guard those 2 years, and we played a triple option. So I pulled every play, and then I played defensive tackle.
Smacking the shit out of people.
2-way, and there's only 22 players on the team, so I was a 2-way player. Never left the field, and and then after my junior year, got some scholarship offers, and that's how
I would say so. I would say you got some scholarship offers. Well, first of all, like you said, man, the get off the bus test, right? Like you're passing that with flying fucking colors, and then just the raw dominance, man, for someone that didn't play it all through like Pee-wee and things like that, man, that you're a natural, man. And like, you know, I'm pretty sure you later kind of found out like, well, hold on, like this is in my bloodline. Like, Like, damn, I didn't even know. Like, Pops had it going on like that, right?
that's it.
Yeah, exactly, man. I mean, I didn't meet him till I was 17, so that's what made it even more interesting. Is that this was just a genetic thing that if you were a Browner male, you played football, and that's just what you did. And so to fall into that line and not know it, almost be like a black sheep to it, because obviously my last name says Starks, like it does on here, and to know my father was Ross Browner, later on in life, that was something that was kind of a major trip.
Absolutely. So when you started getting these offers, man, how did you ultimately decide Florida?
Prayer.
Really?
It literally came down to that. So how it happened, I got all these offers in like my junior year. And then I went to the Michigan football camp and I went to the Georgia football camp those summers.
Okay.
And so from there, like they were like, oh yeah, we want to offer this guy. Michigan actually wanted me to play defense, and then Georgia wanted me to play offense after their camp. But it was kind of crazy because the story, like with the Georgia camp, like I showed up to this Georgia football camp, and it was a 7-on-7 camp, but they told me it was like a lineman camp. So it was like me and a dude by the name of Albert Means, who was one of the top D linemen in the country, and especially in the Southeast. So it's just me and him doing one-on-one drills for like 20 minutes. And then we go into the weight room and we like lift and our day is over. Mind you, all the other dudes, the DBs, wide receivers, safeties, they're running routes all day. These dudes coming in dog tired. It's the summertime in Georgia. It's hot as hell. And we just in there like, hey, what's the problem? We drinking Gatorade sitting on the weight bench.
So you were originally scouted under the Spurrier era, right? Like that's who originally. Correct. Now, did you get at least a year or so under him, or was he kind of like, was that transition? Like, how did that work for you when you ultimately got to Florida?
So I ended up, I had 2 years with Spurrier. So
two and before Zook. Okay.
Yeah, so I had freshman year and sophomore year with him. 2000, we won the SEC championship game. We beat Auburn. We go to the Sugar Bowl. And then we have, and then of course we get into the thing with Miami, the whole brawl on Bourbon Street and all that stuff. And then second year we don't win the SEC, but we get a bid because we're high enough, and we go to the Orange Bowl and play Maryland in the Orange Bowl my sophomore year and tore the brakes off of them. And then after that, that's when Spurrier was like, "Hey, I think I want to make this jump to the NFL, go to the Washington Redskins." I know they're the Washington Commanders now, but then Redskins. Yeah, make sure we make that distinction. And then
no hate mail, okay?
Yeah, exactly. No hate mail, no hate mail, no dots, no feathers. We're good. So I get Zook my last 2 years.
Nice. So for you in that time, man, like, bowl games, of course, are totally different, right? Back in our playing days, like, you get to it. There's like 50 million bowls, man. There's I got a blue shirt bowl, the lawnmower bowl, or whatever. But like, what's like a really
weed eater bowl?
all of that, right? What's like a standout like bowl memory? And it doesn't have to be on the field, man, because it's just like it's awesome experience, right? Like to work the championships and then like to get that. But what's like a bowl experience? A top couple, 1, 2, or you can whatever you feel like sharing.
Man, listen. So first one I'm gonna say entertainment wise, Miami was off the charts. It was a Nokia Sugar Bowl at the time. And we was on South Beach. They gave us jet skis on the beach. Like, first of all, you can't give, young men full access to jet skis on South Beach. That's just that was wild. That was crazy. We had a good time
in your testosterone prime, like the best.
Oh man, yeah, standing up, you doing circles, you trying to jump waves. I mean, I saw dudes fall off and just bite it. Dudes had to like take another jet ski out to help the guy get back on the jet skis. Dudes ain't never been on jet skis before. Yeah, exactly. They over there. You have a life jacket on. You're not drowning. Stop it. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that was like one of my favorite memories. But the food wise, I mean, we went to the Outback Bowl my last 2 years, and listen, as much as think about early 2000s Outback, like Kookaburra wings, the bloomin' onion,
it was like a revolution. You ain't never heard of that before, boy.
Yeah, exactly. This was like my Cheesecake Factory before Cheesecake Factory. You know what I'm saying? Before I got a taste of that. And so, but at that point, I didn't want any more Outback Steakhouse for like the rest of the year. I was like, man, I gorged myself because in like the little player hospitality room, man, they had food stacked on the wall, and you just go grab it whenever.
Grab it, right?
Yeah. Same thing with the Sugar Bowl. Popeyes was a sponsor, so imagine this: you got an entertainment room full of a wall of Popeyes chicken.
Get the Tuesday 2-piece special,
man. 2P, and you could go in there, you mix it, you put it like, listen, I want all white. I don't want none of that dark. Let me get 4 breasts and 2 wings. Like you could mix and match whatever you wanted. So a lot of my bowl games revolved around food consumption during those times. But yeah, all of them were great. I was just blessed and fortunate. I got to play in 4 January 1 bowls in my time, and that was like a huge honor. And we kept that streak for my entire class from freshman to senior year. So that was a really cool opportunity for us. Never got the championship. Felt like my sophomore year was our best chance, but that was a year of 9/11, and they moved the Tennessee game from week 3 to week 12 at the end of the year. So we had just played FSU. We lost our running back in that game, and we went into that game. John Henderson was injured. Will Overstreet was injured. All these guys played in the league. They weren't available week 3. But guess what? They were nice and healthy and drafted by the end of the year. And boy, I tell you what, it was pure hell in that game. We lost by 2 points on a 2-point conversion to go to the SEC championship. Eventually would have went to the national championship that year. But it wasn't in the cards, man. It wasn't in the cards. That was for later.
You played with Rex Grossman, right?
Yep, I had Rex for 3 years. I had Jesse Palmer my first year as well when they were split and doing the 2 QB system, and I had Chris Leak my senior year. So yeah, man. So we had some dogs on the team, man. We had some bona fide because Alex Brown was on that team, Andre Davis, Gerard Warren. We had Lito Shepard, Keywan Ratliff. Mike Pearson, Kenyatta Walker were both tackles that went in the league. Of course, Rex, Ernest Graham. We had some dogs, man. We had some dogs. Jeff Chandler was our kicker. So we were a force back then, but just couldn't put it all together for the Natty.
So the draft process, going into the draft, how does that work when you have a bunch of teammates that are also going in the draft? Do y'all communicate the whole time through the process? Do you guys kind of do with your agents and on your own? How does that part work?
So for us, like we were, our class, our 2000 class, and the 99 guys that got redshirted, we were really close. So my class year, you had Keywan Ratliff, Rand Carthon, Ben Troop, myself, Shannon Snell, Gus Scott, Kelvin Kite, and all of us were kind of in that draft process. So we all kept in contact, but we all went to different places to train. Like I came out to AZ to train, which is now where I live, and a lot of the guys either stayed at Florida or they went to their agent's facility. Some guys went to New Orleans with Tom Shaw. Some other guys went to like D1 and stuff, Michael Johnson. And so, but we would come back, because we still had to take classes in the spring. So we would come back. I come back for test days. We see each other. I work in the gym for like a couple of days and then go back. And then come pro day time, all of us are there together. We all going through the grind of, whatever you didn't do well on at the combine or what you lied about being injured about, you go and do it at the you go do it at pro day. Because that was back when the RCA Dome had turf. And, for us, like we didn't play on turf in the South. Everything was grass unless you went to the actual SEC championship game. That's the only time you saw turf, and then at the Sugar Bowl. The only 2 times we ever saw turf. So I was like, man, I don't know. I don't want to do this. RCA Dome had that crown back in the day, kind of like the old Dallas Stadium.
Boy. Yeah.
So I was like, they're like, yeah, man, it's tough to run. So I was like, nah, I got a hammy. I'm going to do everything else, but I got a hammy when it comes to running. I can only run 10 yards. I can't run 40.
Do the shuttle. Yeah, I can only do the shuttle.
I can only do the shuttle. Just, I'm good.
That's good shit. All right, man. So jumping into what we like to call in the game, right? This is where we talk about your career. So 2004, like you said, you actually stayed back. And so 2004 was actually your draft year, which even though you're in that was a hell of a class to be in, man. There's like, if you just think about the number and the names that like all throughout, even deep in the rounds, right?
Yeah.
So we kind of talked about your process of what it was like going through that, but you're ultimately drafted by the Steelers, man. So like, how was that? And I mean, you know, we can talk about your career. Like we don't have to unless you want to.
Yeah.
But I want to focus on the Steelers. But
Yeah,
I do want to
absolutely.
give time and shot, like you did spend some time with the Chargers, the St. Louis Rams, and then you
Yeah.
ended with the Cardinals. But anyway, so you get drafted by the Steelers. Tell me about that day. And did you have a super big suit ready to go?
Oh,
everybody was wearing a
absolutely.
big.
Absolutely. I had 6 buttons down the front. You know what
Ah,
I'm saying? It was loose and baggy. It was about 2 inches above the knee. I mean, it was pinstriped. I mean, I was
Let's
ready.
go.
I was ready. And
Let's
we got
go.
the suit custom made, big lapels. I mean, Steve Harvey would have been proud of me with the suit that I had. But you know, it was funny because that day, you know, this is back when the draft was only 2 days, right? So the
Mhm.
first 3 rounds were in day 1, and then day 2 was rounds 4 through 7. So they're like, oh man, yeah, you can be good. You can be, you know, day 1 pick. You're like top 5 tackles, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, all right, bet. So I'm sitting there in the first round. I'm at my best friend's house with his mom. Like, she wanted to do a whole party. So we all gathered over there. And then after that first round, names just went by. And I actually thought I was going to go to the Philadelphia Eagles, you know, because the Eagles interviewed me at Senior Bowl. They did another interview at Combine. They came down for Pro Day. They came and did a private workout down at Florida, and they took me on an official visit up to Philly. So in my head, I was like, I'm a Philadelphia Eagle, fly Eagles fly. Like I am just all the way in. Like, these dudes are doing all the research. And so they come up in the draft. They were like around like 18 in the draft, I think. So they jump up to 16. I'm like, oh snap, they jumped up for your boy. I'm like, man, they was no. And then they draft Sean Andrews, offensive guard, but he played tackle at Arkansas. And so I was in the dumps. I was like, man, this sucks. I'm like, really? I'm like, really? Even though, you know, Sean was good for them at that time. I was like, man, I could have played with a black quarterback again. You know, I would have played with McNabb. That would have been cool. Brian Dawkins, you know, like all these dudes. And then, so first round comes and goes. Now we're in the second round. I'm like, all right, so I love you guys, but I need a little time to myself. So I go over to my best friend's house because he had just graduated college a year before. So he had a little crib. So him and both my brothers, we all went over to his place, and we're watching the second round. And as they just see my face, like the picks keep coming, and it's not me, you know. And I remember every dude that was drafted before me, you know, because for the Raiders, right, you took Robert Gallery, #1 overall, right? At the #2 pick. And of course, y'all could have had Fitz, but it's all good. Y'all picked Robert Gallery. And then in the top 10, Vernon Carey goes from Miami. And that's the second one. Sean Andrews technically is a guard. He's now the first guard off the board to the Eagles. And then Chris Snead goes the first pick of the second round to the Giants. And then there's like a big lull, and it's a run on defensive backs. And then at the end of the second round, they then take oh God, I forgot his name. Went to USC, offensive tackle. They take him to the Dallas Cowboys. And then, so now that's also Jake Grove goes to the Raiders as well, center. So that's all the linemen taken. Now we start in the third round. And so I'm just sitting there. I'm just like, well, I guess we striking out to the bar, fellas, because this day is over with. It looks like I'm gonna be a day 2 pick. And so first 2 picks go off the board. And I'm like, all right, man, I'm done with this, man. Let's just leave. We about to go tie one on. I'm about to go find some Long Island iced teas and some Incredible Hulks, and I'm gonna forget about this.
Let's go, Incredible Hulks.
Yeah. So as we're walking to the door, my Sprint cellular phone with the pull-up antenna is like 412 number. I'm like, man, what the hell?
Snake.
412. And so my boy was actually born in Pittsburgh. He's like, man, pick that up. That's Pittsburgh area code. That's Pittsburgh. So I pick up the phone, and it's like, hey, could you wait? Coach Cowher's making a decision. I'm like, you called me. Why are you telling me to hold on? You know, and so
Right.
and then my boy and my brother run back to the TV, and so they see what's happening, but they ain't saying nothing to me because the pick is on the board. And so Coach Cowher gets on the phone. He's like, hey, this is Coach Cowher. Wanted to ask you a question. He was like, do you mind playing in cold? I said, do I mind playing? I said, is there a football out there? He's like, yeah. I said, well, let's roll. I mean, I'm not afraid of a little cold weather. I mean, I'm here to play football, coach. He was like, good. That's the only answer you could have given me because you're about to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. It's like, congratulations, welcome to the team. so, so I'm like, what? So then I run to the TV. It's on like a little 10-second delay. And they put, everything down. They show it. I'm like, oh my God, my mom's now calling me. She's like, where are y'all at? You need to come back and celebrate. We headed to the bar, Mom.
We out.
We are out of here. And we go into the bar, and the bar actually happened to be a Steelers bar. I had no clue that it was a Steelers bar. So I walk in there. They're like, That's it. He's like, man, look around this bar before, and then come back and talk to me. And I looked around the bar. They had all kinds of Steelers stuff. Franco Harris, Jack Lambert, Steel Curtis, all this. So they're like, man, you good. You drinking for free all night. You are on my favorite team. And so we had a heck of a night.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
I mean, we'll get into the specifics on the career with the Steelers, but talk about being drafted by one of those organizations. Obviously, the Steelers, the Raiders, the Cowboys, those are the Packers, some of the founding, I guess, fathers of organizations in the NFL. What was that feeling like?
I mean, what's crazy is, MH, like, I knew who the Steelers were, and I remember my first vivid Super Bowl memory, like sitting down watching the game, was Steelers Cowboys, Super Bowl 30, but I didn't know that much about the Steelers, and so I kind of did my research after that, and reading about the 4 Super Bowls and understanding where they're at. Then I also read they had cut the previous second round picks, so then I'm nervous about going in here. But it was the history, and then knowing that they only had 2 head coaches at this time, Chuck Noll and then Coach Cowher. I was like, man, they really keep their coaches, and understanding the mystique and the gravitas of playing for this organization. And then you realize that the Rooney family and kind of their founding back in 1933, and how they're one of the few families, because another team that you mentioned, the Maras, as far as the original Giants, in the family type of organization. And then of course their ties together, the Maris and the Rooneys, and the whole Irish Catholic thing, was something that was it was really cool to understand the history. And I really didn't grasp it until I got there. I get to the facility for the first time, and you just start reading the history and just looking up more information, because dial-up was still a thing back when I got drafted. So you didn't want to waste your time just hitting the AOL browser all day. So to be able to go there, they had books and stuff you could just grab and read. It was really cool to understand the history of this organization, and it gave you a bigger sense of pride when you went there, because you knew what it was and you knew what they expected. And when you walk up there the first time and you see them 4 Lombardi sitting behind glass, and you just okay, championships is an expectation here. It's will be later to be known as the standard by Mike Tomlin. That's just what we do. And so
with that, I got 2 questions. One, how does it feel to have brought 2 of them, right? Not only to play for a franchise like that, but to bring 2 of them there, right? A lot of athletes, right? We talk on our show to a lot of different athletes, and sometimes just getting there is hard, right? But to get there and win 2, how is that, man? Just for the stories and just kind of the experience, just amazing, man. So talk to about that. And then after, the second one was give me your favorite Tomlinism.
Okay, all right.
Any thunder from MH.
But so I mean, it was. I mean, it's tough to describe, because I had some amazing teammates. And listen, if it wasn't for the guys that I played with, we wouldn't have been in that situation. I mean, we got guys who already got gold jackets now, and guys who are on their way to getting gold jackets. I mean, that's how special our team was. And, without them, and just kind of being, as I like to tell people now, I say, just do your 111th and good things happen. You know what I'm saying? Do your 111th on the field, do your job. And so I was blessed and fortunate to go into a room that was a very veteran room as a young guy, and have a lot of guys as mentors along the way. So they taught me how to be a professional. They taught me how to attack practices, how to watch film, how to take good notes that you can lean on and use later in your mind. And so Barrett Brooks was one of those guys for me. Barrett, long-time journeyman in the league, came from Kansas State, played a lot of time with the Eagles, came over to the Steelers. And, he just kind of took me under his wing. But, when you play across from guys, when I first got there as a rookie, I'm playing against Joey Porter, Clark Hagans, Casey Hampton.
Rest in peace,
Chemo,
Clarky.
yeah, R.I.P. That was my twin because we had the same birthday, January 10th.
Oh, I love Clarky, man.
Yeah, man, Clark, one of a kind, boy. I mean, the
One of
party
a
didn't
kind,
start
absolutely.
till he walked in, man. And I know he is jugging in heaven right now. So
That part.
but yes, absolutely. He's definitely he got Moses a little drunk. I believe that.
Clark. Oh,
yeah, I know,
yes.
man. I know. It hits a special spot. But like Brett Kiesel's a young dude on that team.
Oh,
James Harris. Yeah. Kiesel and James Harrison are core 4 special teamers. They're not even playing on defense. They're just on the core 4 special teams. That's how good our team was. And then James Ferrier, Larry Foote, you got a young Troy Polamalu, a young Ike Taylor, Deshae Townsend, Chad Scott, Chris Hope. I mean, we had a heck of a defense squad. Clint Krewald, of course, Aaron Smith. I mean, we had some dogs on that squad. And so to go and practice against them, man, they made me a better player. And I didn't dress the first 4 weeks of the season. So I was in sweats. Barrett Brooks was the backup tackle. Chucky Jacoby they were the 2 swing guys. And I remember one game Barrett just say, "Hey man, listen, I got to get you up to speed because I'm just holding your spot for you. Like, understand that. Like, this ain't my spot. I've done my due." He's like, this is supposed to be your spot. So you need to go show them that you're ready to take on this mantle. And so that just fired me up. And so I remember I got my first jersey against Philadelphia when they were undefeated that year in 2004, and it came to Pittsburgh. And I just remember I was like, man, I was excited. I was on extra point and field goal, thought I was doing something. I was a jumbo tight end. And man, the first time they called me, back to the tight end, I made it back. No hands, all blocks. And so I remember I was on Javon Curse, my fellow classmate, my fellow alumnus at University of Florida. And the first play, man, I just caved him down. I was like, man, I had all that pent up NFL energy. I was like, man, and I just remember hitting him and we win that game and then kind of progressing. And then I win the job my second year. I played at right tackle that entire season, and we fought. I mean, we did it for Jerome, and to go to Detroit and then give him that ultimate blessing, that fairy tale ending to his story was something I'll never forget, man. I'll never forget that. And then it becomes my story the second time around because we go to Tampa, and as an Orlando boy, that's the closest I'm gonna get to home. So I was like, this is my homecoming game. This Super Bowl against the Cardinals was my moment.
This is for me.
Yeah, this hey, I love all of you, but this is personal. You know what I'm saying? Like I little focus here on 7-8. And so I just remember that moment being on the field and winning that. It was the ultimate, because when you win one, and Tom Brady said it best. He's like, what's the best feeling about winning a Super Bowl? He said, the next one. It's truly that infectious. Once you get that ultimate high of competition, you've hit the peak of the sport. Like, there's no trophy bigger than the Lombardi Trophy in football. Like, that's just it. Now, when we get to flag football with the Olympics, that'll matter a little bit more to a degree, but you play for that silver Lombardi. And so, I just think about that, and I can't believe that was a childhood dream realized. I mean, that's essentially the best way you could say it. It was a fantasy come true. And I'm forever grateful to my teammates for that. But I will say, favorite Tomlinism, 2 dogs, 1 bone.
Yeah,
2 dogs,
we've heard that. We've heard
yeah,
that.
we got 2 dogs and only 1 bone. Who's going to dress? Who's going to dress?
Get it?
Yeah, who's going to get that bone?
That was his shit. Yeah, we've heard that.
Yeah.
So along with, you're playing, right? Like, so we did talk about the other teams, and like, what was the choice for you to stay in Arizona without getting, and maybe this will be a transition into kind of the second part of your career, but what was the reason? Because a lot of people, like, you bring 2 chips to Pittsburgh, why not, pull up roots in Pittsburgh, at least part-time, You stayed in Arizona, and is it for some of the health reasons, right? Because we have a lot of retired athletes here in Las Vegas as well in Arizona, just because you hear about some of the physical benefits that it provides for playing those tough days. Like, I know your knees talk to you some days.
Yeah, absolutely. They're barking today too. But no, I think it was, I'm from the South. I'm used to heat. I was, I like cold, but I didn't want to live in cold. Like I didn't want to have to scrape snow off a car. I didn't even know how to do that for the longest time. And so for me, I was like, I want to go someplace. I love the mountains. I love the scenery. Like you said, the air is drier. It's better on your joints. But, I did not want to. And I came here and trained every off season. So I was always here as soon as the season was over. So I was used to it. I bought my first place here. And so that was really my introduction to it. I just fell in love. I was like, man, this is a place I want to retire to. And I always came here as soon as the season was over. I was here until I was mandatorily required to be in Pittsburgh.
I love it, MH.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm gonna jump into the quick hits.
Unless you have another question, it's up to you.
We can jump into it so we can get.
Absolutely. Yeah. We want to respect that time, man. We know you're on a.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
MH, get them with the quick hits.
2 quick questions.
Okay.
Boo-ray or spade?
Oh, boo-ray all day. We booing. Now, mind you, I am a seasoned spade player because I'm from the South, and I'll be going to my boys' spade tournament on the 20th of this month. But boo-ray is the game that you play when you're trying to make up some lost deficits of the cash variety. Spades is what you play so you could have bragging rights and talk mess and eat barbecue.
I got you. We've heard some boo-ray stories on this show.
Oh yeah, yes.
And then first time, if ever, you were starstruck. Maybe this is back to the childhood type area.
Ooh, man. I think first time I met Shaquille O'Neal was probably like my starstruck moment. Being in Orlando, growing up like 2 blocks away from the arena. The first time I met
guys
Shaq,
are that close.
Yeah,
Nice.
I was at, yeah. Our family, because they built it right downtown, and back then that was still an urban metropolis back then. And so my family actually, my great grandfather built his funeral home in 1934 on that block, and then they just happened to build the arena a couple of blocks over. But meeting Shaq for the first time, I had written him a letter in 8th grade asking for some shoes, and he sent me like this huge box of shoes. So I was forever grateful. That was before I even met him. Then I meet him in person, and that was like a cool experience for me. That was the first time I was really starstruck.
Right on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
So I have a couple questions for you too, man, in the quick hit round, man. All right. So Campbell's soup or super donut?
Oh, I mean, Campbell's Chunky Soup. That's what I grew up on. You know what I'm saying? And I appreciate the royalties off of that. So
that's what I was gonna ask. Are you still so for the listeners that don't know, I mean, all of our Steelers people know about the mom doing this Chunky Soup commercial with the was it O-line mom or mom?
Yeah. Team mom. Yeah.
Team mom.
Yes. Yeah.
So but you also had Super Donut, which was interesting. I've never heard of this protein packed donut.
Yeah. So the Campbell's Chunky Soup one came about. Ben and his mom were actually supposed to do it. But Ben had the motorcycle accident that happened like about 2 weeks before the shoot. So they were like, hey, whose mom is in town and can do it? And before anybody else said anything, I was like, my mom can do it. My mom can do it. She's here. She's actually back at my house. Mind you, my mom is all the way in Orlando, Florida at this time. And they were like, all right, well, if she could be here tomorrow for the test, I called my mom as soon as I walked out. I said, Mom, go to the airport and call me. You need to get on any flight that gets to Pittsburgh right now. I'm paying for it. Get up here. She had no clue what it was. And then she gets here. She's like, what was it for? I'm like, do you want to be the Campbell's Chunky Soup mom? That was something that she always wanted. She wanted to be that. And so I tell her, and then she is just over the moon, and she gets to be the Campbell's Chunky Soup mom for that 2-year campaign. And it was awesome to be able to do that for my mom, man. So, but Super Donuts, RIP Franco Harris. I mean, I tell you, the salt of the earth human being. So Franco had his super bakery in Pittsburgh. And so he came up with the concept to help free and reduced lunch kids, struggling, impoverished kids at school have something that was healthy as an option for them to eat at school since they couldn't get breakfast, or maybe they didn't have breakfast. So he instituted this program in all the Pittsburgh public schools. He sent these donuts, and he created a batter that was a protein-rich, whey powdered batter, and created donuts from. So he made a healthy donut, put vitamins and minerals infused in it, so they could have something healthy in the morning that could sustain them at least until lunchtime. And so that's how Super Donuts were born.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so then he asked me, "Hey Max, you want to do the campaign?" I was like, "Absolutely, Franco." And so I did the campaign. So they did like little cards and stuff. And so I was blessed and fortunate that Franco blessed me with the opportunity to represent his Super Donuts.
Awesome. And this is more of an experience, but then the quick hit is your name off of it. So what is the infatuation with athletes and WWE, right? So so you were on WWE as a guest host with Ben, where you guys were on, I think, Monday Night Raw, and it was him and the whole starting line after you guys won the Super Bowl. But what is you have actually a WWE name. So share with our audience what your WWE name is.
So, I mean, every kid grows up loving it. And back when I started, it was WWF, before World Wildlife Foundation wanted to take
that shit sued. Right.
Yeah, exactly. Pandas over headbutts. You know what I'm saying? So, but it was something I grew up in that era where, 80s. I mean, it was Hulk Hogan, it was Andre the Giant, Iron Sheik, Jake the Snake Roberts, Big Boss Man, Ultimate Warrior, right? I mean, you had all of these big names, and it was the attraction. It was the choreography. It was the pageantry. We were obsessed with it. So then when you become an adult, that doesn't really go because you had the Attitude Era. So you have Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, and all these dudes. And so it was one of those things. It was an infatuation. And then you get to the league, and I remember the first time, even before we did the guest manager job with Ben, they would come to Pittsburgh, and we'd go to the matches, and we get tickets right behind the ring announcers and everything. We'd be sitting there right up against the wall. And I just remember I built a relationship with Jonathan Coachman, who was the coach back then.
Yeah.
So me and Coach exchanged numbers. So anytime they came to town, they'd be hitting me up like, "Hey Max, man, hey, what we doing after the fights?" So we'd be backstage kicking it, and I'd make sure I find a bar that they could go chill and hang out and unwind a little bit after the show. And so Ben develops a good relationship with Triple H. And Stephanie McMahon. So we're on Triple H's tour bus. That's right. Bow, bow. Him and Shawn Michaels, the DX generation. And so then he gets a call like, "Hey man, they want me to come guest manager, but I want all you guys to come with me, the O-line." So we're like,
dope.
"Bet, we out there." So it's like, "Where are we going?" They said, "Wilkes-Barre." I said, "Where?" It's like east going
in between, right? Isn't it?
Yeah,
in between Pittsburgh and
and here's how we reference it. Remember The Office in Scranton?
Mm.
Like Wilkes-Barre is right next to Scranton. So we're like, "Oh, so we're going to Dunder Mifflin to do this." And so they WWE sent the jet for us, and we flew there. Man, we had a blast, getting to hang out with the Big Show, Shawn Michaels, and really understanding kind of how the shows work and everything. So it was a really cool experience. And those guys are awesome dudes. And they really showed love to us. And we just, we tried to make it as fun as possible. But it was cool to get out there in front of the crowd, go over. I made the mistake of going over the top of the ring ropes. And if you're not experienced, you're supposed to go in the middle, unless you're like Big Show, who's like 7'4".
Big Show.
Big
You
Show
can go over.
there.
You can go over a corner. So I'm like, you know what? I'm a go, and I racked myself so bad.
How'd you not, Mr. Jones?
I was just so happy that we did a walkthrough, so I didn't do it live. But then when it came live, I went through that second. I went above the second one and the third one. Yeah, I was like, yeah, let's go ahead. Let's keep the children intact. But no, it was cool. So my nickname was the Undertaker growing up because like I said, my great grandfather started a funeral home back in 1934. So that was the family business in Orlando. So I grew up, and I remember I drove a hearse to school my junior year, and all my classmates, everybody was scared of me. So, and then I went to practice that day, and I just picked the dude up and just slammed him. I don't know why I was mad. I was just mad. I don't know. And so they're like, "Dang, you buried him just like the Undertaker. This dude's the Undertaker from now on." So that's how it kind of got started, and the Undertaker name just kind of stuck.
Fucking love it. All right. Well, hey, man, in progression, man, we want to kind of rapid fire some of these because we want to talk about what you're doing right now, right? So now, man, you're an analyst, and I mean, you're everywhere. I mean, ESPN, iHeartRadio, Westwood One, the Steelers, college football, so everything like that, man.
Yeah.
So how did you get into the media that way? And why did you choose kind of like starting radio versus TV? And like, I know you're getting more into TV and doing a little everything, but how did you get your start?
So it was actually during the season. they had an opening for a radio show on Tuesday nights in Pittsburgh. They needed a Steeler player to do it. I agreed to do it with Joe Bindle, and we did it for a couple of years for Trib Radio. That was my first start. And then after that, when guys on my team couldn't make their shows or whatever, so like I filled in for like Hines on his show. I filled in for Jerome on his show. They did like a 4-man rotation when they were trying to figure out who was going to take over it next. So I did a lot of that local media. You know, Stan Savran, the late great Stan Savran, would have me on his show on FSM Pittsburgh back in the day, and then when it went to Root Sports. So I just had a knack for doing it while I was an active player. But then I went to the broadcast boot camps. I went to the journalism camps, trying to figure out what do I want to do next. And then when retirement hit, I just remember, you know, from my boot camp days, like, hey, just go volunteer to do whatever at all the stations locally. So I remember I went to every single radio station in AZ asking if I could just get on air and just talk football. 9 of them turned me down. 1 said yes, eventually. But the first time I got a gig was a guy by the name of Jude LaCava with Fox 10 out here. Asked if I wanted to do the post game of the Cardinals on Fox 10 since Fox was carrying all the NFC games. So I was like, oh, of course. So that was my first step into it. After I'd interned at 120 Sports in Chicago, and I did like a whole bunch of internships. That was the first one locally. And so I did that. Then from there, it led to me getting the radio opportunity to be a fill-in. And then from there, Trey Essex, put me on because he was doing like Division III college football. So he couldn't make a game. So he made a recommendation that I could do it. That was my first step into it. And then 120 Sports, and then became Stadium. Was like, hey, we need somebody to do Conference USA football. Would you mind doing a couple games? Do a couple games. Then I'm the lead guy for them for years. And then I get the call 3 years ago from the Steelers and ESPN Radio at the same time. Hey, we're looking to fill a role. I was like, absolutely, I'll audition. So I auditioned for them. ESPN Radio was looking for a role. I auditioned for them. And I got both of them. I was like, well, which one is more important? I said, well, the Steelers one is more prominent because that's based in my career. So ESPN came back and said, how about this? We'll put you on college, and because we still want you to be a part of the company. And then when you're not calling games on Sundays for the Steelers, we'll put you on NFL games. And so that's what I've been doing the last 3 years. And then I've been working for SiriusXM for the last 6 years, full-time, college and pro stations. And then it's just been building from there. And so I've just been blessed and fortunate to make a lot of relationships. And like you said, just continuing to grind in the direction of my passion. And I've loved, I love every bit of it. I tell people I don't work every day. I get to do what I love. I get to do my passion. And talking to people, sharing my story, sharing the sport that I love so much is giving me so much. This is my way of giving back to the sport by educating and entertaining people that also share that same fandom.
Yeah, in journalism and entertainment, what do you think the next step for you is?
Well, the next step is, just go ahead and take over the world like Pinky and the Brain. No, but I think the next step would be to have an opportunity to have a prominent, permanent space. I think, where I can create content, where I can do things to really show off my multifaceted, because I'm a huge comic nerd. So I love Marvel. I love pop culture. I love movies and stuff, and kind of intertwine that with sports. I think is probably my next thing that I would love to get to. Not straying far away from the main thing, always keep the main thing, and that's football, which I love, but I would love to call an Olympics. I'd love to do the Olympics one day. That's on my bucket list of things to broadcast and commentate, especially now that we know flag is going to be in the LA Olympics. I was a kid that grew up around track and field. I love basketball. I was a ball boy for the Magic. So I've been around basketball. Has been a part of my life since a very young age. So I would love to do that one day. Just to be able to say I called an Olympics would be an amazing feat. So those are probably the two things on the precipice for me.
There you go. Reach out to your girl, Maria Taylor, man. She made that big jump, boy. She disappeared and then came back on the Olympics. I'm like, God, now that's a player move right there for you.
Yeah, exactly. Put the big foot out there.
Put the big toe out. You talked to any of the guys that kind of jumped in? So it's funny, Ben Troop, who you played with, he's actually been on the show.
My gosh.
He's doing hilarious, by the way, when he had him on
that was my roommate. That was my roommate in college, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yes. Junior year. We moved off campus together. Oh my God. Yeah. Me and Troop, we got way too many stories for this show.
We should have hit him up before we got you on.
I know. Troop's my dog, and I still talk to Troop a whole lot, man. That's my boy.
Yeah. So, and then I mean, of course, Ryan Clark you played with, and he's doing
Yeah.
between the TV. He's got like 5 shows on ESPN
Oh, he's
and
Jamaican.
the
He's full blown
podcast. And
Jamaican now. Yeah.
just
got
won
a
an Emmy,
13 job. Yeah,
13.
got an Emmy doing NFL Today. I mean, he RC has put in the work. Now you talk about a grind. Like I thought I grinded. RC is the epitome of grind, and I mean, and he's still the most humble, person I know. I mean, that doesn't get to him. He knows where his roots are, and he's a great person, and he's willing to take the shirt off his back to help you. And I think that's one of the things that makes him so great at what he does is that he never loses sight of where he came from, and he understands it's a blessing and opportunity and not an expectation, and he treats it as such on his daily routine and how he goes about his walk of life. So, big ups to Ryan. I love when I get a chance to talk to him, and we just kind of share, just life stuff, and he's been a great resource for me. Willie Colon, another guy. My little bro. Because
I sent you that clip. I was laughing.
Yeah, exactly. Like listen, that's if you could sum up Willie, that is Willie. He's gonna tell you exactly what's right here at the front of his brain, and he's not gonna filter it.
No filter, straight.
Yeah, no filter, straight. Hey, no chaser. He wants straight gasoline.
So with that, but just kind of go back to RC, man. So we're getting out of here. So thank you so much, man, for this, man. We really truly appreciate it.
Pleasure,
but don't want to get away about all the things that you do, right? Like foundation, always giving back. You gave back during your time in the Steelers. You continue to give back in partnership with your mom, helping you create the foundation in the summer camps, the reading literacy. But RC, you guys also did like a blood drive because some people know, like, he fought sickle cell and had those different traits.
Yeah.
So any kind of foundational things you want to talk about, we want to kind of give you that little plug to just, we're going to put it in the show notes so people can kind of be abreast when things are coming to their city, or at least just follow you. So we'll put all that in the show notes. Just give us like, 30 a minute on your foundation, man, because we'd be remiss to get out of here without talking about that.
Yeah. So in Pittsburgh, I started my charitable fund under the Pittsburgh Foundation. I was the youngest donor to ever start a fund with them. And I thank the late Dwight White for helping me with that. He was one of my mentors when I was in Pittsburgh. But yeah, no, I mean, service was just something I was used to growing up. When you grow up in an undertaker household, you're already, in the community, you're servicing people at their most vulnerable moments. So my mom really instilled at an early age the sense of service. So, every holiday we'd be down at Salvation Army, making meals and serving food to people, passing out toys during toy drives. And so took that to college. We did the Gator Literacy program with our Student Athlete Association. And that was something I really thought was important, was to be able to go into these communities and help kids, because literacy is one of the biggest issues, especially in Florida when you only have a 48% literacy rate. There's still a need there. And I just remember my junior year at Lake Highland, we had to come up with a program for our high school. And we came up with a program to go into failing elementary schools and get them ready to take the test so they could get better grades, so they get more funding. And so that program is actually still around at Lake Highland, even 20 plus years later. But it was a group of 8 of us that came up with that idea. And so literacy's kind of been a part of my life. So when I had the opportunity to go pro, Mom was like, well, we can still make a difference. You can still do things here. So we created the charitable fund. We started doing football camps with book drives in Orlando. And we just finished our 17th year of doing it. So we've passed out over 30,000 books in the 5 counties of Central Florida. And now we have reading rallies in all 5 counties. We also culminated with the football camp and also like a Q&A forum, but we also teach kids about clearinghouses, about understanding SAT and ACT scores and how you can actually scale those things up at a younger age, and you can guarantee your scholarship money before you even get to your junior or senior year of high school. You can already have that banked with your ACT scores, because I think a lot of people think, you have to take it your junior or senior year. You can only take it once. You can take it as early as the 4th grade, and you can keep taking it every year, and it only improves. It never goes down. Right. So you get the numbers and the money. So that's something we've tried to add. And then there's just more and more stuff that we're adding on to the programs. But it's been a blessing to do that for almost 2 decades now and service my community back home in Orlando.
Awesome, man. So really quick, one quick quote you live by.
Make each day count.
That's it.
Make each day count.
MH, final thoughts?
Appreciate you, Max, man. I appreciate your time, man. It's been an honor talking to you, and hopefully we get you back on here.
Nah, absolutely, man. EJ knows where to find me. I ain't hard to find, so definitely.
We wanted to hit you with some yeah, that's we got to do.
We
We can have a part two. We can have a part two. We can have a part. We
There
can
we
call
go.
this part one.
There it is, part one, because we definitely want to talk to you about that Florida document too, boy. But anyway,
Oh
this
man, yeah,
this
yeah.
this
do
is
that
part
next
one.
We'll do that next one. Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah,
Hey,
just go.
Maxie, always a pleasure and a blessing, man. Thank you so much. You know, so we want to thank our guests and we want to thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this. You know, Max sharing that other side to you, man. He's always available. Please catch him. We're going to put all of his platforms, social, the website, if you want to get involved with the nonprofit, where you can catch him on his other shows and outlets. So please stay tuned for that. Always know we drop a new show every Thursday. So congratulations, you got to the end of this show. Please follow us on YouTube, please, because visual representation matters. If you see it, you can be it. And know that we're anywhere that you can listen to podcasts. So that's Spotify, iHeart, Google, on the moon, damn it. We everywhere you can listen to podcasts.
Apples,
please,
oranges, everything.
all of them. All of them.
All of them.
But as we always say, man, please stay safe, practice gratitude, and know we're rooting for you.
Screaming, all us blacks got is sports and entertainment until we even.
Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Yeah. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Spent about 2 racks on handmade new rags. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. That's everybody from sports to college class to rap and back.